Well, my name is Kristin Hammond. The company I work for is Jones Lang LaSalle, and I'm a commercial real estate broker.
You do a lot of work with the Portland startup scene, so everything from Tech America to helping people find space. What do you like most about what's happening in Portland right now?
Well, what I like most about what's happening with the startup scene in Portland is that there's a lot of energy and they're getting a lot of what I consider well-deserved attention. I think there's a lot of creativity among the, we'll call them tech innovators in Portland, and I think it's been overlooked in lieu of our neighbors to the north and south for quite a while, and it seems to me that they're starting to draw the attention thanks to a couple of key players in town who've really made an effort, including yourself, to shine the spotlight on the scene here, and it's great. It's good for the business community as a whole, so it's kind of fun to just sort of play around in there, even if it is on a peripheral level.
And do you see indicators in your business of things starting to improve, or do you see, is it causing those ripples?
Absolutely. Hands down, this entire year, the technology scene, and particularly the technology scene in downtown Portland, has been the most active from a leasing, expanding standpoint in the commercial real estate scene. Most of our tenants running around are either new young startups looking for a nice space that they can sort of settle into for a little while and keep their costs low, or they've gone to the next level and they're ready to expand and move into something more substantial that has a sort of a brand presence for them.
What are some of your recommendations for startups who are tired of the coffee shop or working around the kitchen table? What should they be thinking about as they start considering commercial real estate?
So it's not a very glamorous topic, but it can be a very costly one. And the first thing I tell most of the startups that I ever work with, hands down, don't get out over your skis on real estate. Spend your money on R&D, spend your money on talent, but real estate at the end of the day will end up being usually somewhere around that second highest expense in your budget. So why not mitigate that as much as you can by, I know you want pool tables, I know you want, shuffleboard courts, and those are all great, but make sure you're really ready for it, because that's literally rentable square footage that you're playing shuffleboard on. If you want to look at it as, do you play $1,200 worth of ping pong in a month? Let's keep that to a minimum until you're really there, and phase you into, the really great space at the appropriate time, rather than trying to shoot for that immediately out of the gate.
Are there particular areas in town or around Portland that you see startups concentrating?
Yes, they've glommed onto the Pearl District. From there, they've kind of overflowed the park blocks into Old Town, has a fair number, and then more recently, a lot of them have started to move right into the core of downtown, which is sort of that, we'll call it 4 or 5 block radius off of Pioneer Courthouse Square. So the transit mall lines, a lot of the buildings there, we're seeing a lot of them cluster in, and they tend to kind of go by buildings. You'll get one or two buildings where there's 6 or 7 of them, and I almost feel like it's a little synergy. They're building off each other, and then you'll go 2 blocks and there's nothing, and then boom, there's another building where there's quite a few of them in them.
Where in your mind is the greatest opportunity for me to get the most bang for my buck, to still be in the middle of it all, but somewhere affordable?
Still downtown, but not. So there's a couple of areas. The Pearl is tight and the most expensive. So it's no longer, in my mind, really viable for somebody who's extremely budget conscious and still working on raising funds and establishing a stable chain of revenue. So Old Town, definitely you can get some great deals. Still kind of cool, funky space, high ceilings, interesting large windows, open space. Some people have some hesitations about security down there, after hours in particular. That's just kind of a personal decision. I have had clients that, nope, don't want to look there, where you've got, some women on staff. We don't want them worried at, 9 o'clock at night if they need to be there. So, there's kind of the give and take on that. I like the other side of Burnside downtown. So anywhere from, say, like First Avenue up to about Broadway, Burnside, and all the way down to Market. So it's a pretty big section, but there are a ton of historic buildings that can still give you that high ceiling, big window feel, great rates. They'll give you some really great rates, some flexibility on term, and you can still sort of capture that energy of being downtown and around all of the other burgeoning businesses.
What do you think still needs to be done in Portland? What could the startup scene be doing? What we should be looking for? What should we be focusing on? Are there opportunities we need to take advantage of?
I think the Portland scene probably, as hard as this is to say, could probably still collaborate a little bit more. There still does seem to be some divides between some of the newer technology companies and some of the more established, not all, but some. And there's, from a geographical standpoint, interestingly enough, I see a divide between the downtown scene, and there's another whole cluster of these groups out in what we call the Sunset Corridor, sort of feeding off of that Intel presence, no doubt. And I think there could be a little more synergy between those two groups, even though they don't operate in the same two, physical areas of the Portland region. They definitely, I think, would have some benefit from, talking to each other a little bit more and maybe finding a happy medium for gathering.